All right, so we're going to start with a question. The question goes like this. I want to tell you a story. Some of you have heard this story if you've heard me speak before. This is actually a true story. Every speaker says these are true stories. Which is, I want to tell you a story. It's not true. I made it up. But hey, pretend it's true. It's not true. This actually is a true story because it happened to me. It happened many, many years ago when I was learning in Eretz Yisrael as a Bacher after I graduated high school, which is probably before most of you guys were born. My parents, Al Shalom, came to visit me in Eretz Yisrael for Shavuos. I was learning in yeshiva, which is not in Yerushalayim. So they spent Shavuos in a hotel. And so after we ate the meal, so everybody knows the custom is, the minhag is on Shavuos night that you stay up all night and learn, and you daven nates for sunrise. So I figured what I was going to do is after the meal, I would go into the old city, and I had some friends learning in the Yeshivat Hotel. It had just been opened up about a few months before that. And so I figured I'll learn there at night, and I'll be able to go to the Kaisel and daven nates at the Kaisel, and then I'll walk back to the hotel and catch the Yom Tov meal with my parents. So Kacha, this is exactly what happened. We ate the meal in the hotel. They went to sleep. I walked through Yerushalayim, and if you've been to Yerushalayim, so you know, so you walk through Shar Yafo. This was like way before the train and all that jazz, right? You walk right through through Shar Yafo. This is I walked through Shar Yafo. There's an American tourist couple sort of walking along, and you hear I heard the wife tell the husband, ask him, maybe he speaks English. Ask him, right? So I said, okay, I'm going to be a nice guy, man. I'm going to get some I can handle this. He says, hi, can I help you? Speak English. I said, yeah. I said, where do you want to go? He says, how do we get to the wall? So now this was wrong. I want to say in front of all the people, if there's any teenagers watching this was wrong. What I responded was, oh really? Which wall do you want to get to? So they said, like the wall. I said, well, this right here, see, this is the city wall going all the way down the road. They said, no, we don't, not that one. I said, well, there's a northern wall. No. Southern wall. I don't think so either. Well, eastern wall. I said, well, the other one left is the Wailing Wall. Get into that wall! How do you get to that? How do you get down to that wall? So the question is, besides the fact that I was a 17-year-old jerk, right? Why did that bother me so much? What was it about their approach that just sort of just pushed my button? What was the problem with that? That's question one. Question two is, everybody knows the famous Arizal. The Arizal tells us, if you look in the Chumash when it talks about Yom Kippur, Yom Kippur is called Yom Kippurim Huzeh, say a day of atonement. Yom Kippurim, right? That's what Yom Kippur is really called. Says the Arizal that really should be read Yom Kippurim, a day like Purim. Right? Yom Kippur is called Yom Kippurim, and if you break it up, it's Yom Kippurim. It's a day like Purim, which is really very difficult to understand, because in general, why would you compare Yom Kippur to Purim? Yom Kippur, you're crying, and you're fasting, and you're not eating, and you're white, and on Purim, you're running around with costumes, getting drunk, and making a fool of yourself. Like, well, how do the two completely fit together? Right? On Yom Kippur, you're afraid that might die the next day, so you're nervous. Right? On Yom Kippur, on Purim, after you finish, you wish you would have been dead, right? Because you're so embarrassed of what you've done. It's like, how do you compare the two? And not only are we comparing the two, but if you understand what he's saying, it's Yom Kippurim. Yom Kippur is a day like Purim, which Purim is up there, and Yom Kippur is a day like it, right, for the video people, right? Yom Kippur Purim is up there, and Yom Kippur, a day like Purim. Purim is greater than Yom Kippur. How can you imagine Purim being greater than Yom Kippur? So, of course, the only way to answer all these questions is with a question. It's a Jewish program, folks. This is kosher too. We answer questions with questions. All right? So how are we going to answer this question? We're going to answer this question with a question. And we're going to answer it with the following question. Chazal tell us, everyone's into Mashiach these days, signs, emails, things, all portents, right, codes, God knows what, right? Chazal tell us that once Mashiach comes, one opinion is that the holidays we will not be celebrating any of the holidays except for Purim. Purim will remain in Yemos HaMashiach. Now that also seems a little bit funny. Of all the holidays that will remain once the Mashiach comes, Purim, why is Purim going to remain? Why is that going to be? And the answer to that boils down to the number 6. This class is being brought to you tonight by the number 6. By the number 6. Our struggle today is number 6. What does that mean? We're all familiar with the concept that the world is destined to exist for only 7,000 years. 6 days of the work week, 7th day is Shabbat, 7 days of creation, 6 days and 7th day of creation, the 7 words in the first verse of the Torah, Bereshit bara Elokim es hashamayim v'es ha'aretz, 7 days. Each day corresponds to one of the thousands of the 7,000 years. Each day of creation corresponds to another 1,000 years. We all know the world will last as we know it for 6,000 years. Then push comes to shove. No matter what happens, Mashiach will have to come, and the 7,000 will be Shabbos, right? Yom Shekulo Shabbos, and it'll be Yemos HaMashiach. A very familiar concept to everybody. We are obviously getting quite close towards the end. We're already in pretty far along in the 6,000s. We're at 5,769. We're more than halfway through, way more than halfway through the last 1,000 of the 6,000 years of the 6,000 of the 6 days of the work week. Is 6,000 years. So that's why the idea that we're the ikbus of the Mashiach. We're in the footsteps of Mashiach. We're really getting really close to the end. There's not like an awful lot of time left. These 7,000 years correspond to the 7 ushpizim, the 7 guests that we invite into our sukkah on the holiday of Sukkot, which corresponds to the 7 spheros. We know that we count sphero for 7 weeks. There's 7 spheros, and those 7 spheros, those 7 spheres or 7 worlds, correspond to those same 7 ushpizim. Those 7 ushpizim, the 7 guests, the 7 holy guests that we invite to our sukkah on the holiday of Sukkot. Of course, it's Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov. Moshe, Aaron, Yosef, and David. Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Moshe, Aaron, Yosef, and David. That corresponds to the 7 spheres, of course. Right? Avram is Chesed, as we all know. Yitzchak is Gevura. Yaakov is Tiferes. Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov. Moshe, of course, is Torah, which is eternal. It's Netzach. Aaron is Hod, glory. He was a high priest. Yosef is Yisod, which we will not explain. And of course, David is Malchus. David is Melech, Melech HaMashiach. So it's really very easy, because number 7 is David, Melech HaMashiach. 7 is Shabbat, 7 is the Yemos HaMashiach. So obviously, personage number 7 is David HaMelech. We live in the 6th millennium. We live in the 6,000. Right? Who is number 6? Number 6 is Yosef. So obviously the last era before the coming of Mashiach, before David HaMelech, before Melech HaMashiach, obviously corresponds to Yosef. So whatever Yosef's struggle was is our struggle, because that's the struggle which will lead to Mashiach ben David. And as we know, there's an opinion that there's such a concept as Mashiach ben Yosef, who precedes Mashiach ben David. Right? So Yosef somehow leads into David HaMelech. The era of Yosef, the struggle of Yosef leads into David. And it's interesting, because of all the people that we have, Avram is Avram Avinu, right? Moshe Rabbeinu, Aaron HaKohen, David HaMelech, Yosef HaTzadik. Yosef is the only one who's called it Tzadik, which is interesting, because exactly what did he do to merit this title of Tzadik? All he simply did was he did not live on a mountaintop and meditate to God, right? He became a tzaddik by having this very human struggle with the wife of his master, who wanted to sleep with him, and he ran out and got himself put in jail because of it, and because he overcame that particular temptation, poof, that's called tzaddik, which is a fascinating concept in and of itself. What was the struggle of Yosef? What is the struggle of number 6? Yosef was Egypt. Now it's also interesting, because we know there's a great parallel between the exile of Egypt and its exodus, and the final exile and that exodus. Right? We are told that once Mashiach comes, we will no longer say, we thank the good Lord who took us out of Egypt, but thank the good Lord who took us out of our final exile. There is a concept that we are working our way backwards, and that the final exile will be very similar to the original exile, which was Egypt. We're sort of working our way back. There's a concept, the Ramban, famous Ramban, has become very popular now. The Ramban talks about the idea that we will first suffer through Esau, we're working our way back. Yaakov struggled with Esau. Yitzchak struggled with Yishmael. Yaakov struggled with Esau. That will reach its pinnacle and peak. We will then not really have to deal with Esau so much anymore. We'll be struggling with Yishmael, and that will be our final struggle, wrote the Ramban, in the year 1000, whatever, 200, when he lived. And of course, we've seen this in our day. So the Holocaust was the pinnacle of the struggle with Esau, with Western Europe, with Rome, with Christianity, right? And now we don't really suffer so much from them, but Yishmael is clearly our struggle. So we're working our way backwards. And they say also in concept of Golos, we're working our way back, and we're going to sort of go back to the Egypt mode, struggle with that, which was Yosef, and once we conquer that, then we can have our final redemption, which will parallel the redemption from Egypt. What was the struggle in Egypt? Let me ask you, folks, The Jewish people in Egypt, were they good guys or were they bad guys? Were they good guys or were they bad guys? Were they okay or were they messed up? Well, on one hand, we know that the rabbis tell us, Mem Tes Shari Tuma, they were in the 49th level of impurity. Why did we have to get out so fast? Why couldn't wait for the dough to rise? We would just get one more second. Boom! Right? We would have been in the 40th level of impurity. We couldn't have gotten out.
50.
Right? We would have been in the 50th level of impurity. We wouldn't have been able to get out. Right? Chazal tell us that at the splitting of the sea, the angels turned to God and said, what are you saving the Jewish people for? Halalu of the Avodah Zarah? The halalu of the Avodah Zarah. The Egyptians worship idols. The Jews worship idols. They're both idol worshippers. So what are you saving the Jewish people for? They were idol worshippers. They were 49th level of impurity. They were messed up. And on the other hand, we're told, Loshinu Lishonam, they didn't change their language. Loshinu Shmam, they didn't change their names. And Loshinu Malbusham, they did not change their clothing. They retained Jewish names. They retained Jewish language. They retained Jewish clothing. And they worshiped idols, and they were the 49th level of impurity. So to borrow mashal from Avshalom Shadron, but just to sort of rephrase it in our terms. So what you had is you had a fellow whose name's Mishala. He's wearing a long black coat and a big black hat and payas, and he's in a bar on Friday night singing karaoke in Yiddish. And that's what you had. Jewish names, Jewish language, Jewish clothing, idol worship, and immorality. They walk the walk and talk the talk. And inside they have nothing.
Immorality?
Impurity. 49th level of impurity. So they had great Hebrew names. They spoke a perfect Hebrew. And maybe they even wore a kippah. But inside they weren't Jewish. They were Egyptian. They were idol worshippers. It's the struggle of superficiality. It's the struggle of thinking that as long as I look and sound okay inside, it doesn't really matter. And that's the struggle that we have today. What's the struggle that we have today? Everybody knows that the struggle of the outside world always seeps into the Jewish world. And the outside world is struggling with philosophy, so we struggle with philosophy. So Maimonides had a right guide to the perplexed to solve our philosophical issues. What's our struggle today? But what's the outside world struggle? How does the outside world define if you're a success? What kind of car you drive? What stupid jerk's name is on your piece of clothing? Right? Which you spend ludicrous amounts of money for so he can laugh his way to the bank because he's fooled you and you're an idiot and he thinks you're funny and you think you're cool and you're still a nobody, but you don't know that. Right? What letters you have before or after your name, whether you really got them or you bought them on the internet for $25. That's who makes what you are. As long as you look rich and sound rich, you're okay. As long as you keep up and you just follow along with the inane vacuous lies of inane vacuous people, right? Who convince you that if you follow their lies by reading and watching everything they say, that will make you inane and vacuous, i.e. famous. So then you keep up with that. That's superficiality. What's inside really doesn't count. So this happened to the Jewish world too. So you wave the flag, put on your kippah, say the right thing, sound the right way, sign the right petition, do your thing, and boom, I finished, I did it, and inside where's your moral compass? Where's your passion? What are you really at? What do you really believe in? What do you really hold? That's our struggle of today. That was the struggle of Yosef. That's the struggle of number 6. Because what's number 6? My friends, 6 is the work week. 6 is a week of chol, of devoid of any sanctity. And 6, more important than anything else, is a number that boils down when you take our great nemesis, Amalek, who was the nemesis of the Purim story, who was the first person to attack the Jewish people on their way out of Egypt. And Amalek did not seek to destroy the Jews, they cooled them off. They squashed their enthusiasm. They said things are not so clear and not so simple. You just got out of Egypt, we're going to attack you. And they got defeated, but they cooled off their enthusiasm. And the numerical value of Amalek is 240. 2 plus 4 is 6. And the numerical value of Safek, doubt, is 240, and 2 plus 4 is 6. And we're in the 6th millennium. We're in the millennium of doubts. We're in the millennium of lack of enthusiasm. We're in the millennium of superficiality. We're not in the millennium of heresy. It's doubt. Lack of passion. Sort of, yes, not so clear, don't know what I really do, don't know what I really know, not charged, not pumped, do it just to get by with it. And that's what we're dealing with. And Yosef is the tzaddik, because Yosef lived in Egypt, and Yosef had to speak the Egyptian language, and Yosef was given an Egyptian name, Safnas Paneah, and Yosef was given an Egyptian clothing. He wore that amulet that was given to him by the Pharaoh. Yosef had a run of a minister, and he didn't wear necessarily Jewish clothing, and he didn't necessarily speak the Jewish language, and he was given a non-Jewish name, and he was the tzaddik. Because inside he was power, inside he was passion, inside he was enthusiasm, inside he knew exactly what was right and exactly what was wrong and wouldn't compromise. And he's Yosef HaTzadik, and he's the hero. And he's the one that will help us break through and get through this suffix, this doubt. As a little aside, by the way, many years ago, many years ago, so I was sitting getting a haircut, just about this time of year, in Yerushalayim, and we're sitting there waiting in the barbershop, and a fellow comes in, and he says, we're talking. He says, no, you know what the gematria of Amalek is? I said, yeah, sure, Amalek, everybody knows Amalek 240. I said, what is it, 6? He said, yes, a fake, yes, that mode, very nice. He said, you know what else is 240? I said, no, what else is 240? He said, dollar. Daled Vav Lamed Reish, dollar. Same numerical value as Amalek. I said, really? Yes, I'm out. And he says, but you can look on the I said, what else, Dad? One more. He said, sure. You know what else is 240? I said, no, what else is 240? He says, Mas Hachnasa, income tax in Hebrew. Same numerical value as Amalek. What to do with that, I do not know. Never knew Canada. I was just kidding. That's not, it was just a joke. Okay.